let's learn how to remake an already made up 19th century dress. Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin, and here on this channel I teach old-fashioned sewing skills primarily for the 19th and 20th centuries. And I have an event this weekend that I need a dress for. And I have working class dresses. I want a little bit something fancier just in case it comes down to that. And I made this dress, I don't even know how many years ago. 6-7 years ago. I don't know if it fits or not. This could be a really easy fix. It also could not be a really easy fix, and I don't know yet. Did I even use historical techniques when making this dress? I think I did okay. This is like an 1870s dress. It's like an early to mid 70s. Should be hooks and eyes. I do remember this being really tight, so I guess, yeah, that might be too small. And then there's a bodice, and then there's an overskirt apron thing. Let's see. I'm going to put on corset, probably just over my clothes, and then we can talk about what I need to do with it. Alright, y'all get to see a little bit more of the messy sewing room, but I got a corset on. I'm just going to try it on just to see if it fits. Well, no, but it's not that far off. Okay, comfortably, it's about 3.5 inches. Okay. So that's 3.5 inches in the waist that I need to figure out where that's going to come from. And I heard a little bit of a rip, so apparently I need to mend something now. This is what's going to be the more difficult part. Now, if you buy a gown that's too big, you have the easy job. It's when things get a little bit too small that we have a problem. Alright, I'm actually highly impressed that this partially kind of fits. Because I actually wasn't expecting that. How far down can I get them to go? That's it. Okay, so it is, if I did a few more hooks and eyes, I could get the bust from here, which is really where it should be fitting anyway. And then this is probably about that 3.5 inches off. I do remember the skirt being a lot tighter than the bodice though, so usually 3 inches, that's about 3 inches. Okay. Alright. Good news is most of this can be fitted with just refitting of the darts. Now, I have in the past, if you have a dress that's really off, what you have to do is take out the shoulder seams, you gotta take the sleeves, take out all the side seams, and you're basically, the way I found the best way to do it, in my opinion, is to take your bodice pieces and lay them over top and use whatever scrap fabric you can get your hands on. So like, I cut a little bit off the apron. I could cut a 2-inch strip off the skirt if I needed to, just all the way straight up, and re-seam that skirt seam together. Just 2 inches off the circumference of a skirt is not going to be that big of a deal. And then I will piece the garment to make it match my pattern piece that actually fits me, right? And so then I can re-put the whole thing together. So that's how I would do that if it's drastically too small. If it's too big, you can do the same thing. Take the whole thing apart and then put your pattern piece over top, cut around it, and all of a sudden you have a brand new bodice once you sew it back together. If it's just slightly off like this, I try to do more fitting things, such as we're going to try retaking out darts. That's probably going to be 90% of what this is taking out the darts. And I think we might be okay at that point. Skirt's going to have to take off the waistband. I might have to put a little bit of scrap waistband on. I have a little bit of extra of this fabric. Whether or not I want to actually deal with putting that together and making a whole new bodice, I don't think so. So we're going to see what we can do. If it ends up just looking too weird, then I can add in extra bodice pieces and we can remake a whole new bodice. But I'm going to try to get away with not using any excess fabric, because I realize that if you purchase a gown, you may not have the extra fabric, and I want this to be accessible to everyone. All the things that we're going to talk about today, we're going to try to make sure that everyone is able to do it with the fabric they already have. So I'm going to try really hard not to use the excess fabric that I know I have down the road if I need it. So I think what we're going to start with is I'm going to take out darts and take out that waistband, and probably go ahead and take the waistband off the apron as well. Alright, taking out waistband, doing all that fun stuff. So first step in remaking anything is typically to take things apart. I know that's not fun, but it was commonly done in the period. It's called remaking. This is also a really good time to be thinking about if you like this style of gown or if you want to change something. If they're in the period, if they're refitting, they're thinking about updating it to the latest style, which, because we are more stagnant in the fact that we don't grow, we don't start off in 1858 and then 2 years later we need to update to 1860, and then a year later need to update to 61, and a couple years later go to 64. We tend to have a pretty stagnant, these are the years that we do. So we don't necessarily need to do as much updating in that sense, but maybe it's a style choice that you would like to remake, or really anything of that nature. It's a good time to be thinking about that. Right now I'm mulling over the idea that I did hook and eye closures on this particular dress. I know more than when I made this gown many years ago. And I know that by the 1870s, it's far more common to have functioning buttons and buttonholes as a closure than it is to have just hooks and eyes, especially on a nice dress like this. So I'm thinking, do I have buttons that I could work with this? Could I steal buttons from another dress, tack them on, and then down the road in a couple weeks buy new buttons for this dress? I gotta wear this dress in like 2 days, so I don't have time to order anything. So I have to think about, do I have buttons or can I steal some for the time being? Now, if your waist is drastically different, you're probably not going to want to save any of these pleats like I'm doing, but I am fairly close enough to where I feel like I could probably work with some of these pleats, and so I don't want to get rid of all of them yet. We may get to that point, but I'm going to try to keep as many of them together for the time being as possible. Quick note, I got the waistband taken off. I found a little rip, which is probably what I heard earlier, so I'm going to whip that closed. I'm really going to do some nice stitching here just to hold that in place so it doesn't do that again. But what I'm thinking is I need to add like 3.5 inches to this, correct? Well, I don't want to use any of my extra fabric, but what I do have is this long waistband on the apron. Now, this is a truly Victorian pattern that I used a long time ago. They are not the most accurate, and actually I'm going to take out hooks and eyes while I talk so I don't just waste time. They are not the most accurate because I'm pretty sure that no one in that company has ever seen an original garment. If they have, they didn't study them very closely. I don't think the patterns are bad necessarily, I just think you need to chuck the directions in the trash because they are garbage. Now, I know from looking at a lot of originals, and also I have friends who specifically study the 1870s and 1880s, and I know from people such as that most of these aprons are actually on the same waistband as the skirts. They're attached. So what I can do is adjust the skirt and the apron together to make the waistline bigger, and then I can add this waistband to this waistband to give me that 3 inches, and then I will have extra fabric for anything else that I need. So if step 1 is to ascertain the damage, and step 2 is to take the garment apart, step 3 is to make the plan. And the plan is, at least for the skirt right now, and sometimes you have to tackle the pieces in, separate parts. You have to do the skirt separately from the bodice just to make sense to you. And I am one of those people, so that's what we're gonna do. So to fix the skirt, we are going to attach the apron and the skirt to make it, again, more correct. It's going to fix an accuracy issue, and it's also going to fix my lack of fabric issue. Who on earth stitched this thing twice? Yeah, I mean, it was me, but to be fair, I'm impressed that I did as well as I did. This is my very first adventure outside of the 1860s. So I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't know anything. I mean, I had my hands on originals, but I hadn't studied them, especially for this time period. I didn't have any friends to ask questions of. I'm actually impressed that it resembled somewhat of a historical gown. I'm impressed that, the inside is not bag-lined and that it actually, works. So it's always nice to open up your work and realize, oh, I wasn't as bad as I thought I was back then. Y'all, I found extra fabric. It's a pocket that is way, way down the skirt. It's got to be at least knee length or lower. I don't know what I was thinking. But This is extra fabric. Pockets don't need to be a self fabric. They can be a lining fabric. So if you have a self fabric pocket in the dress you're remaking, take it out, get some lining fabric to replace the pocket. We'll put it in a better place this time. And then use the fabric that you found. I was also thinking, I forgot to look at the bodice when I had it on, but I'm wondering if the arm size is not in the right place for 1870s, because I remember making this off my 1860s pattern and like lengthening the bodice and all of that, but I'm not entirely sure that I made the arm side or the armhole go up to where the shoulder line is, because in the 1860s we have a dropped arm side. We don't have that in the 1870s. Now I do now have a whole extra waistband that I have extra now, so I have plenty of extra fabric even within the dress itself. So let's say I didn't have excess fabric, like I didn't have a separate waistband I could take, I didn't have a pocket I could take, and I needed to either add some to the waist or to the whole bodice, or to the bodice as a whole. Or let's say that the dress I bought didn't have any piping in it and we're doing anything pre-1880, and we should have piping at least in the arm size, if not the neckline and the waistline. Where do we get piping? So if you just take a 2-inch strip of your fabric all the way down the skirt and cut it bias, yes, it's going to be time consuming. Yes, it's going to take a lot. And yes, it's going to take a little bit of patience. But 2 inches biased all the way down your skirt, no matter how long your skirt is, will give you more than enough bias to do the arm side and the neckline and the waistline should you choose. So that's an easy way to get self fabric piping if you have to, if your dress didn't come with it and you are doing a time period where it does need to happen. So I don't have to do any of that. This is mid-1870s. I can have piping, I can also not have piping. I'm making the executive decision to not do piping because I can make that decision in this time period. So what I need to do now is find the front of my skirt. So here's the front of this. I also need to find the front of my apron because we're going to put it together now. You will end up being very surprised at all the tiny little places you can get fabric from. Those are my centers matched. So what I need to do now is find the center back, actually, except for the fact I haven't even made this fit. Now this can just be fitted. Now I have not refitted all of this waist stuff. I haven't refitted any of this actually. So what I'm going to do now is grab a measuring tape. I'm going to figure out and configure this waistline to get the pleats back in order to where I can now sew on my new waistband. Then we can fix the hole that we found. We can put in a new pocket, fix the hole where the other pocket used to be. I think the hem of this is just fine the way it is. Yeah, that looks really good. I've seen better, but I can leave it. It's a facing. And we'll be on our way to having a completed skirt. Alright, so mending this little hole. It's not going to be seen at all, so I'm just using the thread that I had right in front of me, which is not exactly matching thread. I just need it to be a little sturdier before I sew this to the apron. We are now actively into step 4, which is to put our plan into action and actually fix the garment. I think it's going to look better if I stitch this part down by hand. So this is attaching the apron and the skirt together at the side opening so it doesn't just fall all over the place. That means that this is just about done. So it has a new pocket out of brown cotton this time. It has been reset onto one waistband that now fits, which I guess is helpful. And all the holes have been fixed that were, you know, a problem. That is basically done. The only thing I could probably do is that some of this needs to be ironed, but I can do that at the very end. All right, fitting. So try the skirt now. In theory, this should fit. We'll find out in just a second. Yay. Perfect. Okay. I guess I need to pull the skirt down. There we go. Okay. Awesome. Alright, it can go on now. That's helpful. Alright, because this bodice technically fit and I can move in it, I did not take the whole thing apart. I just took the darts out. Alright, if I'm going to add anything, I should probably go ahead and add that before I do a fitting. That is good to know the skirt fits. And what I think I'm going to do, this has a little bit of extra fabric. I could fold it over if I wanted to. I have extra black cotton velveteen. That's what this is. And so I think what I'm going to do is add a little strip on this side and then fold this over that. So make it go opposite of what it's doing now. So instead of right over left, it's going to be left over right, which either way is perfectly correct. I've seen both ways in originals. It's mostly personal preference. Now my preference is right over left on bodices, but the way this thing is made is going to be easier, and it's going to hide that join a little bit if I do it the other way. So it's not the end of the world. So this is going to come out about 1/2 inch. And then this, I will add on about 1 inch little bit. And that'll give me plenty of growth room in here. Alright, so working on the front here. A good tip I picked up from a couple originals of mine is if you get a dress that is way too small for you. Okay, it's not way too small for you. You know, a couple, like 1 inch or 2 that's smaller than you. What you can do is take the same fabric, in this case it's a black cotton velveteen, and I cut like 2.5 inches, fold it in half, and that way you get an extra inch on the front. And because it's black and dark, or if you had a pattern, you match the pattern, it's very hard to tell that you did it. And I did the same thing on the other side. Except on this side, I didn't add the inch, I just added a little bit of fabric so there wasn't a raw edge there. But I basically took it to the edge and added the extra fabric so it wasn't, you know, right at the edge. If that made any sense whatsoever. But, yeah, it's just a quick little tip I've learned from some originals. It helps add about 1.5 inches to the waist measurement. That way when I go to do darts, I will have a little bit more for the darts themselves. Next I'm going to struggle with is finding buttons, because I don't think I have any appropriate buttons. Alright, fitting number 3, I suppose. So this will go, I gotta think about this. This side will go over this side because it's inside out. That's still longer. That is so weird. Guess I'll cut one side down. Not a big deal. A whole inch. That is so strange. Okay. Alright, now we can put in darts. The dart can go like right here, I think. Should probably be doing this in a mirror. It's always way easier to do darts with a friend, but we don't always have that luxury. This can definitely be taken in quite a bit. And my sides are basically symmetrical, so I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And apparently fix this, because I don't know what happened there. Everything else is decent. This is probably a little too baggy, but it's not bad. I can still move my arms. These arm size are dropped though, so we are actually going to have to fix it. So I'm going to have to take the sleeves out anyway. Okay. Guess I'll fix this part. I'll take out the sleeves, and that way we can fit it while I recheck the darts. You know, while I recheck the darts. I guess I don't get to get out of the corset yet. Let's put it on. It's all fixed up. I didn't wear it a lot. I just went out to dinner in it. So it got worn for, okay, the drive out there was an hour. So it got worn for like 3 hours. It still smells like wood smoke. I didn't wear it in the kitchen. I didn't have it on but 3 hours, and none of those hours were anywhere near a kitchen. But it still smells like wood smoke. So fun thing about reenacting, when you get back, all your stuff will smell Like wood, it's not a good smell. Like wood smoke smells nice, right? Post reenactment clothes of wood smoke, sweat, body odors, not fun. So it smells like that. I have my petticoat on, and just so I remember, I need to fix this petticoat. Turns out, I don't know what happened. It's nice in the back, but in the front, it goes all the way down to the floor. And so this is why it's all bunched up right here. I did this all weekend. I never did iron out the back pleats, so it might be a little wonky. Alright, I don't know where my actual fish shoe went to, so we're going to try using this. Everything is being washed today because it's after the event, so we're going to see if that actually will, oh, it does actually cover some stuff. Awesome. I put a brooch there. Reason why you leave the top one undone or not done is usually to put a brooch. Don't know where those are right now either. But y'all saw how it was last time, so it fits now. And again, no extra fabric. I used absolutely 0 extra fabric except for the black. And I only added, what, an inch and a half or so? Which again, I could have easily gotten from the skirt had I chosen to, but because I already had a little bit of this, we went with that. Yeah, the clothes don't smell good, do they? Yeah, they smell funny. You're right. And then, okay, this dress actually smells like kerosene right now too, which is not a fun smell. So I was wearing my kerchief, and I had set my kerchief on a shelf in the building we were staying at. And apparently, at some point in time, it wasn't what I'm doing, I didn't touch the oil lamps, but someone spilled oil or kerosene on the shelf. And so my kerchief soaked up that smell. And so when I was wearing it, all I could smell was kerosene. It made me so sick. I was so nauseous. It's not a good smell. And of course when it's like right here, which is right next to your nose, and you're smelling kerosene that strongly, it was not a pleasant experience. And now I think some of the kerosene has gotten onto this bodice because this is a different kerchief. So it's not the kerchief this time. But I'm smelling a little bit of kerosene. So, alright, that's it. I'll set the dress out in the sun and it should dissipate. So we'll be good. Alright, that's it. So, dress fits. Very little extra fabric. And y'all saw it only went to like right here on me. It was not closing. And so the fact that we very easily, in fact, modified that. I took something that was on 2 waistbands and put it on 1, which was probably the best option for this. That left me with a lot of extra fabric that is now just in the extra fabric pile because I didn't use any of it. Also, I think this pocket somehow, it ended up like back here. It might be useful to put it more on this one if I feel like it later, but yeah, so we actually ended up creating a little bit of extra fabric, putting that on, which if you're doing mid-century, you wouldn't have the overskirt, so you wouldn't have had that problem to begin with. But it's always different. It's one of those things that people have asked me, like, how do you refit garments? Can you teach us how to refit garments? And I would love to. The problem is that every single garment and every single person is going to be different. And getting into one video is going to be impossible. So this was one way to do it. But again, there's tons of different ways that you can refit garments. And it depends on whether the garment is too big or if it's too small. I think we today as a people have an aversion to taking things apart to remake them. I don't know why, but it's almost like this thing is done and we can't do anything with it because it's done. And I don't know when that happened, because even in the mid-20th century, it was still normal to have things fitted and tailored to you. So I'm not sure when in the last 70, 60 odd years that changed. And now we can't even change anything about a garment. If we don't like anything whatsoever, it gets donated or thrown out or resold. We don't do anything with it, which is incredibly wasteful. But as a culture and society, this is just how things are done now. And so I understand that a lot of those skills are no longer here. Like, we don't have those skills anymore. But nothing bad's going to happen if you take apart someone else's work to remake it. I promise. Like, nothing bad is going to happen. It's fine. And you're saving the planet, and you're saving the garment, and you're making someone else's previous work live longer. So it's all good things that happen when you refit. So that's one way to refit. Another dress that I extensively refit that was way too small was an 1860s cotton dress, which I will put that link I'll put that link here for you. But other than that, that's going to be this video. And that's another way you can refit garments that I've seen on originals. I have at least one, maybe two originals that use this adding technique. But with all that being said, that's basically a way to refit a dress. And so taking these garments and making them refit you, or if you just bought a gown, fit you for the first time, it's a very normal thing. You can get good use of a gown. So don't just discount a gown. If you find a really good deal on a period dress that's, you know, in period fabric, I don't care if that's the, you know, worst made, you know, serged inside bag lined garment that is not historically accurate. If it's good fabric and you have plenty of fabric and it's a good price, buy it. You can remake it into something that looks very, very nice. I've seen friends take very modern costume pieces that were, you know, a good fabric and turn it into something that's beautifully period inside and out. So that's entirely a possibility. You just have to make sure the fabric's right. Because as long as your bones are good, you'll get something good. But with all that being said, thank you so much for joining me today as we remade a dress and made it to fit when it wouldn't even fit. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Click the little bell notification so you're notified anytime I upload a new video. And as always, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you back here in the next video.